Welcome everybody to tonight's council meeting, the last council meeting of the year. I'd also like to welcome those viewers who are at home watching the meeting via the live stream this evening. Could I ask you all, please, if you can be upstanding, can I ask you, Deputy Mayor Migdale, if you'd like to read out the opening prayer? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Irwin. Almighty God, we ask you to guide us in all our discussions to show goodness, honesty, understanding and wisdom in all that we undertake to do. May we respect each other's views at all times, and we ask all of this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Councillor Proud, could you please read the acknowledgement of country?
On behalf of councillors, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, on which this meeting is taking place, and show our respect to elders past, present and emerging.
Thank you. You can take your seats, please. Thanks, everyone. Without prior approval, any recording of this meeting is prohibited. No action should be taken to the resolution of council prior to written advice being received. That brings us to official opening, and now I declare the council meeting of the 3rd of December 2024 open at 6:31 p.m. Apologies, I have nil for this evening. Approved leave of absence, I have nil. Item 4, disclosure of interest. There were 5 disclosures from the Community and Resource Committee meeting held on the 26th of November 2024, which are listed in tonight's agenda and displayed on the screen behind me. I also have an impartial disclosure from the Manager of Governance on item 13.1, as he is a member of the Risk Audit and Governance Committee of the National Heart Foundation. Councillors, are there any other indications or disclosures for this evening? Yes, I have received one here. Councillor Stephanie Proud has also declared one in TE7, Control of Weeds and Pests. He has an impartial interest as a family member is a contractor for one of the companies which has tendered. Councillor Ree?
Yes, an impartial interest in 12.1, 18.1, Hertha Reserve landfill site because it resides within the Stirling City Centre project.
Thank you. No other indications. I'll move on to item 5. I don't have any petitions notified tonight. Are there any unverified petitions, councillors, for this evening? No indication. 6, response to previous questions from members of the public taken on notice, and they have appeared in the agenda of that meeting. So we'll go on to item 7, which is public question time. We do have a few to get through tonight. We do have quite a large agenda too, so if I can ask you please to try to be succinct with your questions, and we'll get through you all. And I'll start with you, Robin Murphy, if you'd like to come forward. So I will come back and see. Rob. That's okay. So sometimes we receive questions that are submitted online. Those questions do form part of the agenda of this meeting along with those answers. So if we go through and any of those names appear, obviously the person won't be here. Mr Mitchell.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, councillors, council officers and fellow members of the gallery. I just have one question tonight as what I believe is going to be the standard procedure. Mayor, My first question relates, ratepayers and public appear at a loss over the proposed activity in enhancing the bush forever experience of the coastal environment. Now, we know the intent of the boardwalk, however, we don't know what its built form will be or how long, large or high it is proposed. Now, via your media interview, you announced that also, or alternatively, a coastal pathway is in the addenda. Every council meeting, someone asks questions about the traction of this or these proposals. You stated at the media interview you got an award for doing away with red tape. Well, as I said before, it seems to be building up here. That's just a byline. The constant regurgitation of this now these matters are unnecessary and a waste of revenue and resources. Surely this matter now raised, I don't know how many times, has a plan or a proposed plan. And I just wonder if that can be explained now or put in the minutes in relation to how these proposals intend to put their built form forward. I put in I think it was April, about where I have a property down at between Melross and Florida Beach, where the city of Mandurah have put in a coastal walkway between the dunes there, and they've also got a little rotunda up the top where you can start your walk down into the dune, and you can see out in the ocean and where all the craypots are and God knows what else. And as you walk down, you come around.
Just need you to get to the question, Mr. Mitchell.
Barbecue area, and it's well done. And I thought someone from the council maybe would have contacted someone and had a good look at it, because it is really nice.
Yep.
And I think that would be a good thing out at Scarborough.
Thank you,
on
Mr.
a larger
Mitchell.
scale.
No, I appreciate your comments and your question. Yes, certainly the process will be on the website. There's already some information on the website. The first part of the Coastal Boardwalk feasibility was the environmental considerations. That will be posted this week on the website to announce what that's, I guess, enlightened for the future for the boardwalk proposal. We would envisage that we will consult with the community once there are some preliminary designs to show how they could work once all those things are ticked off. But we'll give you the whole process in writing, Mr. Mitchell. And certainly we would expect to take into consideration what else has been done.
Look forward to seeing it. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas, Mr. Mitchell. Merry Christmas. Glenda Lord. Thank you. Just your name and suburb to start with.
Glenda Lord of Doubleview. Good evening, everyone. My question tonight is with regard to the Port Hedland motion and the findings of the contaminated DNA in the COVID vaccines. I'm wondering what are the plans for the councillors here have in mind now that this information has come to light. I looked on your website today, and under the heading of public health, it states the City of Stirling has strategies and plans in place to keep our community safe. Our local pharmacies and hospitals and doctors are still advertising and selling the COVID jabs. It is a sale, actually, and they are contaminated. Many people have been affected and died by these vaccines. The information has all been received from you, I believe, from the Port Hedland motion. We need to work together to resolve this issue.
Thank you for your question. Look, I appreciate that concern for many members of the community, and your views are probably shared by some members of this council. There is no current view of this council that anything will be done with that Port Hedland motion. That was obviously their motion. they put forward, and that's entirely up to them.
Okay, my second question was, or is, if the council would consider having a special meeting for this to I've lost my train of thought. To stop the mandates and withdraw the vaccines.
Thank you for your question. Look, and again, I do understand your concern. I understand what you're asking. There is no remit of local government, though, to deal with anything to do with COVID vaccines. Certainly, health is a federal issue. Hospitals, ambulances are a state issue. We deal with public health plans, which is like, being food safe. I'd hate to, I do understand the concern, and happy to take some of this offline with some of the people and maybe give you the information in terms of getting to the local state member who can assist. I'd hate to give you some false assumption, though, this council can even have a special meeting of electors and actually be able to do anything with it. It's just not under our remit.
Didn't the council enforce the mandates during the pandemic?
No, we don't enforce anything. All we do is enact what we're told to. But
yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
I'm sorry, I know that's not the answer you wanted to hear, but
No, it wasn't.
no. Lisa Thompson? Just your name and suburb, please.
Lisa Thompson, Trigg. Happy Christmas to you, all your councillors and council officers, and thanks for your help. Thank you. I received the Coastal Ward news the other day, and I just have some concerns. It reads, "We also heard how much our community loves getting active along the coast, and it is mentioned it is interested in improved walkways between beaches without disturbing the natural environment." Mr Mayor, how are you going to build a boardwalk without disturbing the natural environment?
That's a very good question, Ms Thompson, and we will find out. So there is no current plan for the boardwalk. The environmental considerations will be published this week, and from there, if it's possible to do it in an environmentally sensitive way, it will progress to the next stage. If it shows that it can't be, it
I
won't.
know, but we're putting out advertising to the community, and it says without disturbing. It just doesn't make sense to me. My other question, Mr Mayor, is nowhere in this pamphlet or in any communication used by the council, e.g. the Field Site Scarborough survey, is it mentioned that the area you want to build an elevated boardwalk is in a Class A reserve bush forever site. Nothing.
Thank you.
Is this
happy to take that on board. Any formal consultation we do will certainly make note of TECs and the Class A reserve.
Yep. I was just upset because, it's never been mentioned in the community in the council's PR campaign, and, when you're giving it out to the community, people need to know what we're doing, because it is a special area and it is a hard area to go on. Anyway, but thank you. And I just want to know what you think of the beach between Scarborough and Trigg. Is it iconic?
Yeah, well, it's special. It's certainly a special place.
It's iconic now.
Yes.
It is absolutely iconic now. So I don't know how we're going to create an iconic, world-class tourist attraction unless we build it in some amazing thing, because can iconic be iconic? It's absolutely beautiful and iconic as it is, but thank you anyway. Happy Christmas, guys.
Happy Christmas. Thank you. Mike Maselio.
Mike Masiello.
Apologies.
Trigg, I thought you might have it by now, but we'll get there, I'm sure. At the last council meeting on the 19th of November, Ms Wollenscroft indicated that the council boardwalk environmental impact assessment was close to being finalised and would be shared to the public and key stakeholders within 2 weeks, which was yesterday. I checked today, there's no signs of the report. One would think if it was a true, independent and transparent assessment, this report would not need to go back and forth with the consultants with comments and changes, potentially altering findings. What's the cause of the hold-up, and what's the new revised date for the assessment being made
Thank
public?
you. Ms Walscroft.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Mr Masiello, for that question. There's not been any back and forth. The city's provided one round of comments back to the consultant. The consultant advised me earlier this week that there's been a slight delay with some mapping that they're doing to show the rehabilitation works that have occurred, but we will receive the report by the end of this week.
End of this week.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I note the next stage of the Boardwalk feasibility study is the economic assessment. Reviewing the components of the assessment, it will essentially consider the economic benefits, which mostly relate to inner Scarborough entertainment precinct businesses. These businesses represent a small number of the ratepayers when you consider the city has 30 suburbs, 230,000 people and 24,000 businesses. It seems unfair that a significant chunk of ratepayer funds will be allocated away from more urgent city projects and essentially help fill the pockets of the Scarborough Beach Association's members. My question, please outline the process that will be developed to assess the return on investment for the boardwalk, given that the benefits would mainly be received by a small number of businesses. And I mean, if you can provide the answer in writing with sufficient detail, if you can't respond to it on the spot, that would be...
Yeah, I think we'd be better responding to you in writing with that one.
Fantastic, thank you. Last question. I've attended the Coast Matters sessions at Foam Cafe on Thursday mornings. The reason I went initially was James Murphy insinuated there was free coffee. However, I found this wasn't the case.
That's a bit rough.
After getting over this, I found the sessions useful for open discussions with city stakeholders that have attended. Come to the realisation that very few staff attendees actually live locally and actually reside in the city. Subsequently, most have a low level of awareness of the environmental factors unique to the South Trigg Beach Reserve area, or traffic or parking or any of that sort of stuff to think. I've also noticed the coastal ward councillors, driving this project or this proposal have been missing in action. At the last council meeting, Mayor Irwin personally offered to inspect a resident's single verge tree. And I even saw Councillor Papard sit through a gruelling 2-hour mass and graduation ceremony for my daughter at St John's Primary on Wednesday. Given the environmental and economic significance of the proposal, why have the councillors, in particular the Coastal Ward councillors, been missing in action from the community engagement sessions? And why have they declined an offer to meet with Professor Seminyak, WA's most renowned environmental specialist, at the site?
Thank you. Look, that's a question for you to take offline to them, Mr Masiello. I'm certainly happy to come down and have a coffee with you and buy you a coffee, Mr Masiello.
Oh, I look forward to it. I'll see you Thursday.
I'll make up for Mr Murphy. Amanda Inman. Thank you. Just your name and suburb to start. Thanks.
Yeah, Kaya everyone. Amanda Inman. Thanks for having me. My first question refers to the recently distributed Coastal Ward news. Within this publication, there's reference to the city focusing on a study to understand the environmental impacts of a potential boardwalk between Scarborough and Trigg. The brochure states after this study, it will then undertake an economic assessment, develop design options, and then undertake extensive community consultation. There are many residents in the community, some of who have met, that do not wish to be consulted about patterns, colours, alignment, and other superficial elements of this proposed project. We simply do not wish for the boardwalk project to go ahead outside the existing path and pathway footprint due to significant environmental reasons and economic reasons. My question is, why is this messaging in the brochure geared towards the extensive community consultation process taking place after the design options and the environmental assessment takes place?
Thank you. And the simple answer is so that people do know what we're consulting on. I think people are already probably tired of the amount of media it's had and the consultation that's been had. We can only keep consulting on people's views of something that no one knows what it is. So the question that quite often is asked is what it could look like, where it would be, and how would you deal with those environmental concerns. So that's the intent, is to make sure there is something so people know what we're talking about.
Okay, I take that on note, but I guess my feedback is that some people want nothing as an option within that consultation process. So thank you. My second question relates to the first one. When it comes to the infrastructure and new projects, it is considered best practice to consult as early as possible with all concerned stakeholders. The Coastal Matters sessions taking place at South Trig, with or without coffee, on a fortnightly basis, as stated in the event invite, say that you want to know what matters to us and the community, especially when it comes to coastal projects and plans. Why then, if the city is seeking a range of views on this potential project, would the city be conducting the sessions weekdays from 7:30 to 8:30 a.m? This time slot is geared towards select demographics of the population. Parents of young kids, students and commuters going to work are not available at this time slot all the time. Could you please provide further details of the intended consultation strategy for this proposal and how it will include other parties besides morning walkers and include traditional owner groups?
Yes, thank you. And that's a fair comment, and your feedback will be taken on notice. The team does consult broadly across the city for lots of issues, and I think you're probably aware they recently did their 30 days across 30 suburbs in different times and in different arenas to try to suit. But your comments are fair and will be acknowledged.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ariane Bradley. And while you're coming up, I'll just rule to extend question times as we've exceeded the 15 minutes. You're looking very bright tonight, Ms Bradley.
Thank you. You noticed my shirt.
Oh, we did notice your shirt.
Thank you. Okay. On Saturday the 30th, I attended a wonderful catio workshop at the City of Bayswater and the Forever Project. As always, it was a very informative workshop and explained the do-it-yourself ways of building a catio on a budget and the positive information of having your cat safe in your own environment and our wildlife safer. While I was at the workshop, I was asked by two of the ladies about cat registration. Both were residents of City of Stirling. Both had cats that weren't registered. One of them from Mirrabooka stated that she collected 2 strays which had adopted her place in their new home. They were not registered, but she believes it came from a property in her neighbourhood that had housed up to 40 cats. My first question is the City of Stirling and the councillors from the Balga ward aware of this property and this problem?
First, I was going to ask if you got a name and address so we can fine it for not having registered cats, but I'll get Mr Mullins to answer if we know anything about this property.
Through you, Mayor, and without knowing the address, I'm not aware, but I'm happy to take that offline and get the details from Ms Bradley.
Not a problem. Number 2 question, is the City of Stirling aware that catios can be made economically to suit the person's budget with a little help from the catio workshops? I've attached 2 of the pamphlets from Saturday's workshop, one from Cat Haven and the other from the Forever Project, for help and guidance for when questions are thrown at why it's an idea of keeping your cats at home. Right, that's my second question.
Thank you, and we'll take that on board and certainly probably take it offline. Mr Mullins may well know. I didn't even know what a catio was until you started talking about them a little while ago.
Yeah, okay. And my third question, is the City of Stirling aware that Cat Haven has produced a pamphlet called How to Keep Your Cat Content While Contained to Your Property? Please read it and educate yourself and your ratepayers of responsible cat ownership. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just get Mr Mullins to provide a quick comment too, just so.
Through you, Mayor, and thank you for that question. Yes, certainly aware, and we are doing everything we can to promote responsible cat ownership, which does include registered cat owners and unregistered cat owners using catios.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Trent Alexander. Thanks. Just your name and suburb to start.
Good evening, Mr Mayor, councillors, executive team and the public gallery. Trent Alexander from Trig. I've witnessed the ongoing deterioration of vegetated coastal dunes at the front of the Surfing WA building for the purpose of creating a surfers lookout since July. Given that the city is only the caretaker and not the land owner of the South Trig Beach Reserve, why does the city feel it has the right to irreversibly alter the remaining naturally beautiful, environmentally important and largely untouched section of coastal dunes to the south of this site to create a $20 million boardwalk tourist attraction for the benefit of a small number of Scarborough businesses?
Thank you. And look, they're two separate questions. I'll get the answer for the Trig Lookout first. Mr Hunter, can you just provide some update?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yes, there is a proposal to do a fairly informal surf lookout at that location that you're talking about in front of Surf WA. It's currently awaiting permissions for the environmental elements from the state government, but it is scheduled to happen in the next few months.
Thank you. And obviously the information regarding the board will be published, or some of it's already published on the website. This council will seek direction once we receive the environmental studies back.
Thank you. Question 2. What faith can be drawn from any of the city's environmental impact assessment when the city let the Surfing WA development in Trigg go ahead? Was the outcome of that environmental assessment that the sand dunes would be blocked from following their natural movement, resulting in sand building up on the paths and car parks either side of the development? If so, why did you allow it to be approved? If not, I revert to my initial question of what faith can be drawn from the city's environmental impact assessment.
Thank you. And look, it is an independent assessment. Council had no knowledge of the people involved in that assessment. I actually haven't seen the assessment either, so there's no involvement of council. That's the only faith we can give you. It was an independent assessment and it will be made public. At the same time, I get to see it.
Of the Surfing WA building?
No, sorry, you're asking what faith would you have in the independent assessment? I'm assuming you meant of the boardwalk coming forward.
Yeah, but was the outcome of the assessment of the Surfing WA building the fact that there was going to be sand dunes and it wasn't allow the movement of the dunes to follow its natural path?
I've got to be honest, I don't recall the full process of that, so I'd have to get you that in writing, sir. I can't try to guess at the process. It was approved and it was through the Department of Planning. It was Crown Land, but we can certainly get you the information of the approvals process for that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Number 3, again with reference to the South Trigg Surfers Lookout, which you mentioned beforehand, notice the area was cleared in late July and no track fencing was reinstated until November 19, leading to 4 months of uncontrolled trampling of the dune vegetation around this area. This had led to increased dune erosion and significant vegetation damage. How can the ratepayers have any confidence in the city's ability to manage environmental sensitive projects following the demonstrated lack of responsible environmental management for the South Trigg Surfers Lookout project?
Yeah, thank you. Mr Hunter?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, there was some clearing of tracks, which also entailed the removal of sand adjacent to the fence line. We had to remove the fence line in order to get to the clearing of the track. The fact is that it's a dynamic environment with dunes, and there is movement of sand from time to time, which we need to move to try and maintain access down to those beachfronts. So we are in consultation with the department and they're fully aware of what our motions are in that regard.
Thank you for that.
And look, the intent of that project, you know, obviously it's not the boardwalk, that is just the lookout in front of the surfing, is that there is, it's acknowledged they're completely informal tracks currently that are eroding the dune. So it is, the end product is to try to alleviate that and make very direct, shorter and narrower routes and revegetate the other dune system.
But that cuts through, doesn't it, from coast to coast rather than just directly from the road to the beach, does it not? There'd be a
I think we're talking about, we're probably talking about different things now.
Larger distance. Well, you were just referencing the movement from, or the current paths, were you not?
I'm just talking about the lookout.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But there wasn't acceptance, so I'm assuming from yourself that fencing off the area was required. Is that correct? I mean, it's obviously it's fenced off now, so...
Yes. Yeah.
So
and happy to provide you some more information offline.
Oh, that'll detail the reason for the delay? Or?
Yes, happy to put it all in.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
You're welcome. Amelia Wallace. Thank you. And just you might just need to bring that down a little, and just your name and suburb to start.
My name's Amelia Wallace. I'm from Wembley Downs. Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor and councillors and executive staff for an opportunity to ask my questions. The first one has already been asked. Will you support the motion proposed by the town of Port Hedland as disseminated to you and councillors? You have already answered that question. My second question is, section 3.5, legislative power of local governments, 4B. Nothing in the Health Miscellaneous Provisions Act of 1911 or the Public Health Act of 2016 prevents a local government from making local laws under this Act about matters relating to public health as defined in the Public Health Act of 2016, Section 4, in brackets 1. Mayor Irwin, will you use this power?
Thank you. Look, I appreciate your question. I've made it very clear I won't be using that power. I don't believe it is under the remit of local government. And whilst, again, I acknowledge there is concern from community. I mean, you've heard from other members of this gallery this evening. We don't always get it right when we deal with sand dunes and cats. Like, you don't want us dealing with vaccines. Seriously. And I'm not trying to make light of it, but you don't want an uninformed council dealing with significant, serious health issues. We've got to deal with roads, rates, rubbish.
You were just asking for
realm.
a suspension, all right, okay.
Yeah.
My third question, Mayor, when you instructed Jamie Blanchard, Manager of Governance, to respond to my letter addressed to you and councillors in which Jamie Blanchard responded, and I quote, "The matters you have raised are entirely within the remit of the Western Australian and Commonwealth governments and I should write to them." Therefore, Mayor Irwin, how can the Chinese trackless tram, which is state and federal manager, be in the remit of local government? What is the difference here?
So trackless trams come under land use planning, which is entirely, along with road engineering, which is entirely under the remit of local government.
Thank you.
Robert Madden. Thanks, Mr. Madden. Just, you can bring that back. Yeah, name and suburb.
Robert Madden, Inaloo. Good evening, Mayor Irwin, councillors, members of the gallery. We're quite lucky to have this system here because it means while I've been away attending to other things, can keep an eye on what's going on here. And I'll be honest, I was watching last week and it was particularly disheartening to see so much disinformation amongst councillors here. We put trust in you, I suppose, to vote on policy and practice put forward by the city. And it seems that on the topic of cats, despite our best efforts, there's a lot of misinformation and just falsehoods that are still permeating councils that are going to then make decisions on policy. So it seems quite pertinent to front load this by saying that owls are indeed native to WA, and contrary to the ecological teachings of the old lady that swallowed a fly, cats don't actually pose a solution to rats in our suburbs. That's just a scientific fact. So with this in mind, it seems quite staggering to us then that the draft cat local law on the agenda tonight that you're being asked to vote on as councillors is, in the opinion of many in the community, wholly insufficient. It is entirely at odds, in our opinion as well, with the city's stated core values of innovation and transparency. Notably, it's been stated several times by the City of Stirling that effective control laws are not possible and they would rather wait for the state to do something, and can appreciate where that sentiment comes from. But my first question then is, will the city actually acknowledge that effective control laws are indeed possible and have most recently been enacted by the City of Bayswater?
Look, thank you. Obviously, I'll try to answer a few things there. Firstly, I think it's really important to make clear that when you reference the misinformation, you're talking about a completely different agenda item from the previous council meeting, which was about owls, I believe, not about cats.
I think they're all entwined, Mayor Owen, and cats are definitely helping suppress.
And there goes to my previous point. All right. Let's also be very clear. This council is elected by ratepayers to represent themselves. They've all got their own views, and you won't always agree with their views, but they're representative committee. They're certainly not experts on cats. In terms of transparency and accountability, the agenda item this evening regarding a cat local law is drafted by officers. Council's decision tonight is to put it to the public to see Mr. Madden if the community agrees with you. So it's not determining whether we think something or not. It's going out to the public in a fully transparent, as a local law, for the whole community to give their advice whether they agree with it. And the rest of the community may or may not agree with you. And then it will be considered by this council.
Thank you for that, because that builds directly into my second question there. The wording in the agenda tonight is interesting because it seems quite intentional, the wording. I'd hate to think it wasn't intentional, but the sentiment there is that only some in the community seek effective cat control. And yet the city's own public consultations, that there have been 2 or 3 now surveys, the overwhelming majority of responses would suggest actually the public do want effective control.
No, look, I'm not sure what you're referring
So
to.
okay, so let me turn that into a better phrased question then.
Mr. Mullins, can I get some response to that?
Is there a reason that it says some as opposed to the overwhelming majority of public consultation?
Through you, Mayor Owen, the reason it says some is we have done numerous cat consultations and consultations with the public, some beyond what is statutorily required under legislation. To say some, I think, and I'm just trying to do a quick mathematical addition now, but it's escaping me, less than 200 people responded to those consultations. If you think about the number of cats we currently have registered in the City of Stirling, that's over 6,145. So to say some have responded to the consultation, I think is accurate. And then the second part of that is, my count, 50% of that 200, just under 200, supported cat containment. It wasn't everybody that said cat containment.
I seem to recall the last ones was actually 87%.
Mr. Madden. Mr. Madden, if I could just ask you to ask questions through the chair, not to debate an officer. Thanks.
Sure. Okay. Well, as a note, I'd like the Mayor to know that I think it was 87% on the last consultation were positively interested in containment. Anyway, my third question then, why does the city not include in their report any of the scientifically evidenced data regarding cat predation rates, disease vectoring, mortality rates for cats, nuisance issues, when presenting to council these motions that are being voted on?
Thank you, Mr. Mullins.
Through you, Mayor Owen, there are numerous sources available, I guess, around the impacts of cats. To include all would be extremely difficult for us. To be able to verify particular sources, again, problematic for us. So we have chosen to provide information on the WA Feral Cat Working Group to elected members, which we think is a reasonable thing to do and is consistent with what's happening in Western Australia.
And I can confirm Council has had a couple of workshops, significant workshops on this in the lead up to it. But again, it is out for public consultation. You are welcome to provide all that information and send it through to councillors.
Thank you, Mayor Owen.
Thank you. Justin Jurisic.
Justin Jurisic from Scarborough.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr Mayor, councillors and council officers. My question is in regards to a proposed boardwalk through the Bush Forever site, an A-class reserve. I work in consulting on capital-intensive projects. As a background, my question is, given that it's best practice for capital investment guidance identifies that projects should only consider investments where the benefits outweigh the costs, will the City of Stirling undertake and publish a detailed cost-benefit analysis, which includes monetised benefits and identification of how they will be realised in the future and who those benefits will be laying with prior to any project approval?
It may be hard to answer completely. There'll be some form of that. Ms Wallencroft?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Thanks for the question, Mr Jurisic. Look, we will be doing an economic assessment to understand the economic benefit, the impact, tourism impact to the area. It won't be an extensive cost-benefit analysis. That might be part of the next stage of the project if we move forward. But for us at the moment, we're doing a preliminary environmental assessment and an economic assessment to then inform future decision-making on the project.
Okay. My next question is, whilst you've talked about consultation, I believe going back 2005 and 2013, we have had that consultation and things have been, I guess nothing's been built in that area. Additional to that, in the Scarborough Master Plan, the council wanted to build a road through this area. Why does this seem to be sort of this desire to actually not protect this area for the future generations?
Thank you for that question. Look, the roads were a different issue, and that was a state government led as part of the Development WA proposal through the road reserves. So that was explored and it was ruled out. That may well happen with the boardwalk as well. That stage will come when we determine the environmental considerations and the public give us their feedback on it.
That feedback already been provided twice.
Yeah, and look, that's been asked previously. You know, this is not only a very different council, it's a different time. We're talking about 2 decades ago when the first proposal came up. It's a significant amount of time has lapsed.
Yeah. And with that significant amount of time, not 10 years ago, this proposed boardwalk was going to cost in the vicinity of $1.9 million. Only 10 years later, we're spending $500,000 of ratepayers' money just to see whether or not it's feasible, and potentially another $20 million, according to to your words. Where are those benefits? And I sort of fail to see that that spike in cost. And given that things are probably going to cost more than you think they're going to be, I don't know where we're going to get $30 million worth of benefits.
Yeah, look, thank you, and that will be something that we'll have to investigate through this process and justify to the community. There is no intent at this stage to spend any money until that can be done. In terms of the $20 million or any more or any less, the $500,000 isn't spent yet. There's only a very small portion of it that's been spent. And for it to go to the next stage, then we would expect that would include some design.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your questions. Roland Hadley. Thank you. Just your name and suburb.
Still Roland Hadley, Woodlands. Good evening, all.
Very good.
Thank you. The Mayor has stated that no ratepayers' monies has been spent in relation to the $2 million federal grant that was issued in respect of the business case. At the council meeting on the 19th of October, this was queried, but naturally, the minutes failed to confirm this. Even though costs for airfares, accommodation, etc., for you and staff to fly to Canberra to lobby for this trackless tram project over many years. Also, over $10,000 been spent on producing trackless tram videos, over $1,250 spent on specially printed hats for the city staff to wear. The long-awaited 652-page biased business report, which Mayor Irwin stated would be met by the council. How much, we don't know. So, Mayor Irwin, do you think ratepayers accept your statement? And before you answer, I shall continue. Also, at the council meeting on the 19th of November, we sought financial details of the acquittal amounts submitted to the Federal Treasury. Again, no details in the minutes. So, Mayor Irwin, in the interest of transparency, accountability, good business practice, will you supply these details? Yes or no? If not, why?
Thank you. We'll respond to you in writing, Mr. Hadley.
I've had that before, but never seems to happen. Leading on to question 2. Ratepayers are aware that financial details have been sought since the 15th of October for electricity usage in regard to the $350,000 of Christmas lights and $90,000 to illuminate a clock tower. Information given to me was low voltage LED bulbs, estimated costs of 38 cents per 10 watts per month across 50 items. I did seek clarification, but no surprise, nothing heard. Ratepayers who take time and take part in public question time at this city of choice do not get replies that equate to transparency, accountability, nor comprehension, certainly in the last case. The question remains, Mayor Irwin, will you provide answers that make sense to me as regards electricity costs? And our community group believe that your attendance at a leadership conference is a bit late to benefit the 235,000 ratepayers of this city. Question 3, if I'm allowed to continue. Thank you.
Yes. We'll take and we'll respond to you in writing, Mr. Hadley.
Oh, yes, good. Mayor Irwin has sought council approval to attend a leadership conference in California at a cost to ratepayers of nearly $14,000. Ratepayers will wonder if this would in any way restrict Mayor Irwin's spending spree. $400,000 for new Shire boundary markers, $350,000 for Christmas lights, $90,000 to eliminate a clock tower. Don't ask where, we know what it is. $700,000 to reduce a Mirrabooka reserve to accommodate Perth Glory. $500,000 for a boardwalk environmental study so the South Trig car park can be developed. How many thousands regarding the Carnup Library complex will be spent? We wonder what else is in the pipeline. The Mayor's continual habit of adding ad hoc items throughout the years, items that never were listed in the agreed budgets, illustrates his lack of financial control, as in his own business failure. Again, we consider his application to attend a leadership conference far too late to benefit the city ratepayers. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Mr. Hadley. I'll provide you a copy of the statutory budget for the last 5 years where you can see council endorsement of all those projects. Now I'll invite Simon Wheeler to come forward, please.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors and members of the gallery.
Good evening. Just your name and suburb, obviously.
Oh, that's right, Simon Wheeler, Scarborough, at the moment. Some of you will be devastated to hear this will be my last council appearance, but anyway. Mayor, I'm going to waste one of my questions just to point out that, I'm sorry, Mr. Mullins, through you, Mayor, just offered pulled from somewhere, I don't know, a 50%, that 50% of respondents were interested in cat containments. Now, we've seen all those responses, and that is absolute and utter nonsense. And had that information been in the report tonight, we would all be able to see that it was utter nonsense. Would you please redirect that question to Mr. Mullins?
I'll get some clarity. I'll give you some leeway tonight. I won't take that off your questions because it's your last one.
You're sure? You haven't seen the last one.
Mr. Mullins.
Through you, Mayor Aaron, and thank you, Mr. Wheeler, for that question. That was my view. That was the summary of what I looked at all of the comments, and there were several comments that made lots of different use of words and things like that, and what I took to be cat containment. So that's personally my view and yeah, my opinion.
Thank you, Mayor Owen. Mayor Owen, my first question is prompted by a mistake in tonight's agenda on page 202, where an answer to how one might report a nuisance cat has been replaced instead with remedies for male pattern baldness that one may have found in certain gentlemen's magazines of the past, advertising application of little citrus peel, coffee grounds, cinnamon, lemongrass, and of course garlic, though I honestly thought that garlic was for vampires. And whilst I have zero doubt the oil of lavender and vinegar sprayed in specific areas will keep pussy away, what on earth, Mayor Irwin, does that have to do with the responses to city-initiated public consultation that overwhelmingly asked not for recipes eye of Newton, hair of bat, but for solutions. In a strong field mirror, and this is one of the most blinkered and one-sided reports I've ever read, I'm aware that internally it has been suggested that the number of respondents to the local laws in focus, as just mentioned, are only a small proportion of the population. This despite being from residents that actually exist, as opposed to manufactured community demand for a boardwalk requiring the employment of journalists to help support the non-existent waves of pitchfork waving ratepayers demanding the destruction of a Class A reserve to stop the carnage that is not happening on the existing shared path. Sorry, that's a bit off topic. This report and internal advice condemns consultation as irrelevant in the City of Stirling. Just another waste of ratepayers' funds. Have your say, just don't expect to be heard or even acknowledged. Mirroring what internal advice was, my question is, what internal advice was given to councillors as to why the results of community consultation on the local cat laws were considered irrelevant enough to be withheld from tonight's agenda?
Thank you. Mr Quirk.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the key outcome of our review of the community consultation is that, yes, there were a number of residents seeking cat containment. Our position, based on consultation with the Department of Local Government, with WOLGA, with advice from the Joint Standing Committee, our own legal advice, is that cat containment is not possible under the current Cat Act. I understand that you disagree with that point of view, but that is the city's perspective. Whilst we did still collect all of that community engagement and consultation information and may not have presented it in a manner that you feel is appropriate, we have still taken on board the fact that cat containment, I guess the crux of the concern amongst the community is the impact of cats on flora and fauna. And what we were comfortable with is that we can, under the Act, deal with cat prohibited areas. So we've endeavoured to respond to the general themes of the community consultation, but our firm view is that cat containment is not possible under the Act. Not effective control. We know that that's another means that some local governments are using, but cat containment is not possible under the Act. And it doesn't matter how we slice and dice and present the community consultation through this report, cat containment is not possible under the Act.
Thanks, Mr Wheeler.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'd just add that, yes, cat containment through responsible control of cats in public places is absolutely possible. It already has occurred in several local governments. But I understand the distinction you're making, but it's
just a question, Mr Wheeler. Let's go.
At committee, Merrow, Councillor Dudek asked if I knew the proportion of rats and mice versus other wildlife killed by cats. Ignoring that some mice, a little bit like owls, are in fact native, this information should have been available in the officer's report, as it has been to councillors statewide who are armed with fit-for-purpose reports underlining the devastating effect roaming cats have on our environment. And indeed themselves. Statistics from state and federal government, from veterinarians, from rangers, from the CSIRO, from the RSPCA, and institutions like the ANU, whose studies show that roaming pet cats kill some 60 million native animals each year in Sydney alone. I understand that some councillors have personal opinions that differ from these organisations, but sentimentality and rose-coloured glasses do not negate a requirement for informed debate, something that cannot occur when pretending a problem or indeed ratepayers do not exist. This represents a deplorable abrogation of duty. So my question is, Mayor Owen, will councillors, if only in the name of good governance, demand that this item be deferred until a fit-for-purpose report is put before them, which covers all of the pertinent and topical issues relevant to the making of a local cat law in 2025?
Thank you for that question. Look, we'll take it as a comment. Council are listening to you. It's entirely up to them whether they wish to defer the item. Otherwise, they will vote for it to go out to consultation this evening.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Through you, Mayor, and with respect to the Director, I don't believe that the information that was gathered in the consultation was provided to councillors. It's simply not there. And I think there's a profound
Just your next question, though, Mr.
There's a profound and willful ignorance in play here. The overwhelming evidence that won't be found in tonight's agenda, underlines that domestic cats are infinitely healthier, safer and happier when kept at home. The life of a roaming cat is at best precarious, rife with injuries inflicted by cars, dogs, humans and rival felines. A life punctuated by disease and a far greater dependence on veterinary intervention. My question is council aware that some 40 or so fur babies won't come home each and every week in Metro WA? They haven't run off to join the Liberal Party or a cult. They have not won the lottery and retired to a fish market in the south of Italy, where some of us might be going. They are dead. Sorry to bring it down. They're flat cats, with perhaps a swift ending for the lucky ones, but for the rest, a slow, painful, lonely, and altogether miserable death. The contents of the insides of those statistics are sad testament to the destruction caused to our native wildlife by pet cats. Is council aware that the current status quo is a lose-lose situation for cats, cat owners, and for our environment? And if so, why is it allowing these miseries to perpetuate?
Thank you for that. Well, I guess more a statement, Mr. Wheeler. Council will take that on board tonight and make that determination.
And councillors, it's been a blast.
Yeah, we're going to miss you, Mr. Wheeler. Kieran Kelly.
Kieran Kelly Scarborough, and thank you, Simon. A hard act to follow, but look, on behalf of the ratepayers and people here tonight, it is one of the only agendas that ratepayers get to come and address the council. So, Simon, thank you for all your efforts over the years, and we appreciate all you've said. Okay, my first question is on the minutes of the ordinary meeting dated the 15th of October 2024, which I take are true and correct. Item 4 in that agenda was disclosure of interest, and we had Councillor Chris Hatton and Damien Giudice actually disclose a conflict of interest in something coming up in that meeting. No other mention of any other councillors disclosing interest for this meeting. Forward to item 18.1, the Merribooka Town Centre, alias the Perth Glory Oval. This item was discussed behind closed doors. According to the minutes, at 8:32 p.m, Mayor Irwin, Councillor Franti, Councillor Lagan and the Director of Infrastructure, Mr Murphy, left the meeting. Did they leave the meeting due to a conflict of interest or other reasons? And why was there no reason noted in the minutes?
Thank you for that question. Yeah, certainly for myself, we're a conflict of interest. Mr Malby.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you for the question, Mr Kelly. Yes, the reason why those members did leave the chamber was because of a conflict of interest. Those conflicts, the disclosures themselves, contained confidential information. Accordingly, the disclosures were produced in the confidential minutes of that meeting, and accordingly, they don't appear in the public version of the minutes.
Right.
And
Okay.
I wasn't aware of that, Ms Kelly. I'm happy to make mine public. So
No, just wondering, just going through the minutes, as some of us do read every now and then, unfortunately. My second question in regard to the Merribooka Town Centre Perth Glory Training Centre. Can the council inform me of the water allocation for this oval, and will the council guarantee that other community ovals won't have their water allocation lessened due to the high maintenance and watering regime required for the upkeep of a training facility for the Perth Glory Sporting Club?
Mr Quirk.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Thanks for the question, Mr Kelly. Certainly our water licensing and the increased requirements of Mirrabooka Regional Open Space to accommodate Perth Glory is a key consideration. The approach we are taking is that the Perth Glory have applied for their separate licence through the Department of Water. That will ensure that the allocation of water does not affect the city's licence and therefore other public open spaces across the district.
Right. Okay, my third question is on the Careen Open Space, or commonly known as Canine Open Space. So in 2019-2020, $217,000 was spent on a dog enclosure. In 2023-2024, another $195,000 was spent on a staircase right next to the enclosure, so these people can get down a slight embankment. So a total of and $12,000 was spent on this dog enclosure. And there's still a car park to come, I believe, which could be in the vicinity of another $4,000 to $5,000. So that takes it almost to $1 million for a dog enclosure. My question is this a prudent use of ratepayers' money so a few dogs can run around while their owners are on their phones? And I do note that in the agenda tonight at 12.1, we are talking about the Hamer Park dog extension as well. So I'm just wondering, is that a prudent use of money when we do have parks and small parks in the council area that don't have any grass or water, and as was let known in the meeting not so long ago, one particular park in Doubleview, which is just wood chips and redbacks.
Yeah. Look, thank you. And your point's taken. Obviously, council always balance up the needs and aspirations of the community, and what everyone wants is there's differing levels of what our community would see as prudent use of those funds. It's taken on board. It's not just about keeping the dog walkers happy, though. I think a lot of it is also keeping them off trying to keep them off the major reserves where they let the dogs run wild out, and obviously football training or soccer training or cricket training rolls up and have to clean dog poop up everywhere. So there's other reasons for it, but ultimately it's a council decision that goes through community consultation.
And it's a lot of money. Thank you.
Just most things are. It's scary. Wendy Charnell. Just got a couple left, and then I'll ask you just to start with your name and suburb.
Wendy Charnell, Scarborough, and mine's brief. 20 years ago, I purchased my property in Scarborough, overlooking the dunes where the boardwalk's going to be, overlooking the bike path. One of the main reasons I purchased there was because it was a designated conservation area. I want to know when and why it is no longer a conservation area, and what one does to have it reinstated as such.
Thank you. Look, that area, I assume you're talking about where the proposed boardwalk could go, is a Class A reserve. It is a Class A reserve, and there's no intent to remove it from being a Class A reserve. Thank you. Lorenzo Mattioli. And just your name and suburb.
My name is Lorenzo Matteoli, and I live in Scarborough. I have only one question. Before the final design of the boardwalk, eventual boardwalk will be made, will a thorough study and research be made, carried out, on the interaction between wind, vegetation, and the new boardwalk? Because I feel and fear that the boardwalk will change the dynamics of the wind around those dunes and will make them unstable in the next 30 to 40, 50 years. And I think that a thorough design has to be informed by the wind interaction with the new proposed structure.
Yeah, agree totally.
Thank you.
Yes, certainly. Agree with that comment. That's all I have as questions. Have I missed anyone? Yes, one more. Yes, if you'd like to come up.
Yeah, I did.
That's okay. Sometimes I miss someone.
Oh, hello, everyone. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
You're not going to like my question.
No, I don't have to like your question.
Okay.
Yep.
So, hello, I'm
just your name and
Sandra
suburb.
Dowling from Stirling.
Thank you.
Lovely to be here. A few ladies have already brought up the topic, and I understand, Mayor Irwin, you said that it's not your jurisdiction, etc., but I beg to differ, and now I've just got to find my notes, but I've got the Local Government Act, which does say you can. So Local Government Act from 1955, 3.1, General Function. If you go to 1A, and then the third point, in making decisions to consider potential long-term consequences and impacts on future generations. This goes back to the DNA contamination in the COVID injections, which the majority of Australians had to take. Over 60 million injections were given to 20 million people. The great debate was on Friday night last week. It was brilliant. A lot of well-spoken people spoke, brought it up. So I've got a copy here. I didn't have enough print, but anyway, can I just give you can pass it on?
Yeah.
So there you go, and I can give you one.
We'll get it off you later. Thanks.
So I've just got concerns as a human being, my fellow man. Everywhere I'm seeing a massive amount of illness. There was a lot of evidence out for people to do some research if they could or wanted to or knew how. My concern is the elder population of Stirling. So Stirling Council, I believe, is the 17th biggest council in Australia, correct? There's over 240,000 ratepayers.
Yes.
40,000. Oh, by the way, City of Joondalup is joining in the motion. So there's about 4 councils. City Joondalup's pretty big as well. So my concern is the elderly population don't, I mean, a lot of them just watch telly, etc., but they don't understand. The doctors have been hoodwinked, people have been coerced. Your own staff were mandated this deadly injection. We're all talking about budgets and all these wonderful things that City of Stirling are going to do. I wonder how many people are going to be left. It's very concerning. So just as
Just
insight,
need you to get to a question, though.
Yep. So my question is, which you already answered, but I'll go back to the questions. I do apologise. So my first question was, how does the City of Stirling intend to respond to the information supplied by the town of Port Hedland and the contamination of DNA with regards to the commitment to the ratepayers, the workers and yourselves, your families and friends? Surely someone's affected.
And
I've
again-
got
and
9
again-
pages.
And again, thank you for that question. Look, the city doesn't intend to respond. The Port Hedland put a motion forward that they will continue to put forward their viewpoint to state and national authorities. We don't intend to respond to Port Hedland.
But this is what I don't understand. Your community, we're all affected. Doesn't that, don't you care? I'm sorry, I don't, it's just very confusing.
Again, I understand. It's so
it's
easy
really
for it's so easy for councils to take everything on board. I'm happy to facilitate for the people who are concerned to get the help or the people they need to be in front of. But it is just, I don't think it's appropriate for me to lead you down a path where you think we have any voice. This is the sort of stuff that if councils put forward motions to a state or federal government, they come back and say, stick your noses out. We haven't got any authority. If there are any mandates with staff, it comes from state legislation to do with frontline workers. We don't put in place or make stuff up around that. The intent of the Local Government Act of 1995, when it talks about public health, is certainly not around COVID vaccines or any significant federal health
but it
issues.
says you can prevent, it says also in 4B 3.5, it says nothing in the Health Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1911 or the Public Health Act 2016 prevents a local government from making local laws under this Act about matters relating to public health.
I appreciate it. All I can do is answer again. It's that if we made local laws regarding things like COVID vaccines, they would be unenforceable local laws.
Okay.
We have no legislative ability to do anything with them.
Okay, so for yourselves and people, if you weren't aware, so Pfizer did try.
Sorry, I do need you to ask questions though. This is only question
I'm
time.
getting
Yep.
to it. Are you aware of the 75-year suppression Pfizer requested, which a judge overlooked, and that was in 2022? So there's 9 pages of adverse reactions. I'm seeing them every day in people. Are you, so, but this, okay, so they're my 2 questions. This one's a good one. I saw it the other day. Everyone's talking about cats.
I don't want to discount them. They're all good questions and they're relevant. I understand there's a concern.
Okay, so, but I'm happy to give you, there's...
Just your third question though. We have a big agenda, please.
Okay. So it's about, when people were bringing up cats, I thought this was a good one. The other day, I was outside Shearwater Reserve, so I noticed that your staff were treating with glyphosate on those grounds. And I know you've got to do your job, and I know that you're eventually going to get rid of it. But it's interesting that when they left, the signs went. So I was watching children and dogs and people using the park and lying on the park. And so I'm just thinking that glyphosate's still there. Again, that's a public health and safety. So you're concerned about cats killing birds, but crows have been found. One resident said every time the council sprays, they find about a dozen dead crows and birds. So you're trying to get rid of install the cats in houses, I understand, and yay, I'm a cat and dog lover and an animal lover, but at the same time then you're spraying and you're killing the wildlife. That glyphosate goes into the water table. That affects us all. So I'm just curious why things are done the way they are. Can you please remove glyphosate and stop using it, full stop? We all know it's bad.
Thank you. I appreciate that
Please.
question. I can get you a brief response from Mr. Hunter just on the use of glyphosate.
Okay, so do you want the adverse reactions? There's 9 pages.
If you can, our governance staff will see you and grab copies of it.
Yep, I've got lots of information for you, and please share it.
And don't get me wrong, you've got probably some of these councillors, obviously they're reflective of the community. There's some very supportive councillors, but thank you. Let's get Mr. Hunter to provide a response.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. We sparingly apply glyphosate on reserves and bushland areas, but we apply the integrated pest management principles, and we only use glyphosate as a last resort. I can add, though, that over the last 6 years, the city, 6 years ago, the city was applying about 2,000 litres of glyphosate per year, but in the past 6 years, the use of glyphosate has dropped by 70%.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter, and thank you for your questions, Ms. Dowling. You can, as you go past, would you mind just turning that silver button off just on the bottom right-hand corner?
Bottom right here.
Yeah. Thank you, and thank you, everyone. That does bring us to the end of public question time. I'll go on to 8, application for leave of absence. I have nil at the moment. Councillors, are there any leave of absence requests? No. Before I go on, I'll just note that Councillor Ree has left the chamber. And I'll go on to 9, confirmation of minutes. Councillors, can I move in a second to accept the ordinary meeting minutes held on the 19th of November? Moved Councillor Kristovich, seconded Councillor Giudice. And just show of hands, councillors, to accept those minutes. That is unanimous. Thank you. Item 10. Announcements by the presiding member. I do have a couple of quick ones. The first one I will start with is just a general acknowledgement. It's the last council meeting of the year. It's an appropriate time for us as a council just to acknowledge, and those who are here on Saturday night, as we had many community members here, to acknowledge the year that has been. It's been a significant year for the City of Stirling. It's been a year with a brand new CEO, a massive change after so many years. I noted on Saturday night that under Stev's leadership, it was specifically around, or his endorsement by this council was specifically around cultural change and engaging with the many officers of the building to deliver for the community. And I want to congratulate the CEO and the executive team who are also here. I think it's been a wonderful year. I know council have felt there's been just a slight change in direction. There's definitely more focus on, I guess, processes and how we do things, how we engage with the community, and your style is noted. I think it's moved on with executive as well, and I feel like the organisation has been set up for a really positive future. So I want to acknowledge yourselves. I want to acknowledge the officers who are here tonight, and it's probably a good time to acknowledge the incredible work you do all year round. I know that something that's often not seen by the community is that because it's such a council-led organisation, you're often here Monday nights, Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights supporting citizenships, Thursday night supporting regional council meetings, all those other days and weekend works consulting with our community. So we thank all of you. To the community members who are left, we thank you. I know often when community members ask questions, they apologise for maybe the intent of the question. Look, I think Mr. Kelly summed it up. It's, you know, we understand the reason you're here. You're normally something's upset you, maybe something that really concerns you in the community. And we do respect the fact that our community gets up on a Tuesday, leaves their house and comes here to prosecute their argument or put forward their case. We may not always agree with it, but it's an important part of democratic process. So we thank our community for being involved, and included those ones who are watching our meeting via the live stream in the community, who engage with our teams when they're out there talking and consulting on so many issues and things that affect their communities. So a big thank you from me. I'd also like to finish by thanking the councillors. You're a massive support to me. I often say it. We're so lucky at the City of Stirling. We don't agree on many things, but I feel like we have an incredibly respectful relationship where we can debate and discuss items. I feel like I have incredible support from all of you in delivering for our community. It's noted even the last few weeks, I think there weren't many nights that you guys were at home when you're out representing myself or the council at community events. So thank you for your work and for taking that time away from your families. And I wish everyone, including Mr. Wheeler, a very Merry Christmas and wish you all the best for the holiday season when we finish this meeting. That's my first announcement. My second one, and this one is very special, I wish to advise that on Friday, the 25th of October, our CEO, Stev, received Jamie Blanchard's resignation as Manager of Governance. Jamie will be commencing at the City of Cockburn in January 2025 as a Manager of Legal and Compliance. Jamie, over the last 6 years you've worked for the City, there were many highlights, and I know we've discussed these, and I know you've talked about these with your team, but I think about you conducting the first mayoral election of the public for the City of Stirling, the largest local government in Western Australia, and doing a brilliant job of it. You got a good result in the end, didn't you? Maintaining effective governance through the COVID-19 pandemic. You know, we saw tonight it's still having a lasting effect on our community, but the way you were able to guide and have a sensible head on how this council navigates that with effective governance. I think you've elevated the role of risk and governance. I think we talked about this at some of the previous meetings when we looked at the maturity of this council and the organisation in starting to look at an incredibly mature way at the risks, on how we conduct our business and how we comply with all those different state, federal and local government compliance issues. You've reduced the annual legal spend by about 50% over the long term. There's been incredible reductions. It saves our ratepayers millions of dollars. So we thank you for that, and I'm sure they thank you for that. Developing a sector-leading approach to integrity and delivering the first data strategy for the City of Stirling. These are incredible milestones that have lasting legacies on this organisation. And I think one big part of that isn't just that it's you doing it, it's the way you're able to work across the organisation and provide support to all those different areas that work within those. Conducting the first election under the new optional preferential voting rules as well. And I may note, when you think back to that last mayoral election only a year ago, you know, it's certainly the organisation and the work done by our governance team that meant the City of Stirling, as the largest local government, was the only one to be able to declare the mayor, even though it was out of 240,000 on the night. And that was in no part not due to the work that you guys do and your team in preparing for those sort of events. And of course, supporting council to become the first West Australia to pay superannuation to elected members. And I'm sure all councillors and future councillors thank you for that recognition and the work you did to look at ways to do things rather than look at ways not to do things. Just on Friday, the 2nd of August, I was very proud and pleased to be at an event where Jamie received the Local Government Distinguished Officer Award at the Welga Local Government Awards for 2024 for his leadership in the field of governance. Jamie leaves the city's governance framework in a very strong position, and indeed leaves us with a very strong team who he's developed over his years here. The city are a well-considered sector-leading performer in governance space, and I note now, even as Jamie prepares to lead us, he still continues to lead the sector, providing advice to other agencies, and has an incredible following on his LinkedIn profile of how Blanchard sees things, which I follow because it is truly interesting. Jamie, you've been a massive support to me in my time as Mayor, and I know Stuart in his time as CEO would echo that, and I know Stev has appreciated your guidance through this transition. I know in talking to our council, they value not only your leadership and your counsel, but the humour in which you're able to do it and the productive way. We've always found you a governance officer, again, who looks at ways to enable good outcomes and good things rather than looking at a way from a compliance end where you stop things happening. You're going to be sadly missed by this council, Jamie, and we truly wish you all the very best in your future. I almost blubbed at the end there, Jamie. We'll now move on to item 11, which is unresolved business. I have Neil, and we'll go on to reports and recommendations from committee. Councillors, we're going to deal with the Community and Resources Committee from the 26th of November. We have been requested already to pull some items out, so if you just note these, up there should be on your run sheet, but 12.1 P2 is already requested to be pulled out. 12.1 F1 is requested to be pulled out. 12.1 F4 is requested to be pulled out. 12.1 TE4 will need to be pulled out. And 12.1 GOV1 has been requested to be pulled out. Councillors, are there any other items? Councillor Migdale?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Can I pull 12.1P1, please?
Sure can. Is there any others? P1, the first one on the agenda. Yep. So let's start working through these and see how we go. We'll go, of course, to the Chair of the Committee, Councillor Perkoff, to move the committee's recommendation. 112.1P1,
Yep.
please. Yep.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. With your indulgence, can I just say a couple of little words? Look, contrary to some opinion here this evening, can I personally and on the behalf of the CNR committee thank our officers, our exec and our governance staff for providing some excellent reports throughout the year. These CNR meetings have taken a life of their own. Absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much, everyone. So I would like to move, is it 12.1P1 as per committee recommendation on page 12?
Sure. And Deputy Mayor, you want to second it with?
I'd like to second it just with one word taken out of number 2, please.
Yeah, let's have a look.
And that word is low. Because when you are dividing up a space between big and small dogs, it cannot be a low fence that a big dog can walk over.
Yeah, I think that's
So
fine.
just for the sake of common sense, let's take that one word out.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I don't think that changes the intent. Yeah,
No.
that's fine. You're happy with that as a mover?
I'm happy with that, Mr Mayor.
All right, is there anyone opposed to the medium-sized fence? No. There's no one opposed, so I'll put that item to the vote. Thank you. That is unanimous, councillors. We'll go to 12.1P2, the Inglewood Parkland.
Mr Mayor, I move the committee recommendation, page 18. I do note that there is an alt rec from Councillor Migdale, somewhere over leaf.
Let's just, sorry, I missed your alt rec. Oh,
It's on the board.
yeah, yeah, sure. So you'll second with an addition?
Yes,
Yep.
please.
And the addition is just that the CEO engages with the federal and state government for external grant funding, which would be the intent. Happy to have that on.
Happy with that, Mr Mayor.
You're happy as a mover. Councillor Lagan, you have a question? Or are you
Yeah, I
opposed?
have some questions. So I'm not against, but I have some questions.
I'm happy to allow the questions if it's just questions.
Yeah, thank you. My apologies, I was unwell and unable to attend committee, so I couldn't get to ask the questions at committee. My question is, through you to officers, at any time during the community consultation, were MPs, state or federal, canvassed as to support for funding for a footbridge over Alexander Drive between Yokine Reserve and Inglewood Pools and Parkland? If not, why not? And can I just add to that, that I've just seen some figures that show that the traffic per day on Wanneroo Road, which does have a footbridge, is 29,000 vehicles a day. The traffic on Reed Highway, which does have a footbridge, is 76,000 vehicles per day. And the traffic on Alexander Drive is 32,000 vehicles per day, ranking it second in that group.
Thanks.
So it would be worthy of a footbridge.
Thanks. And look, I think they're significantly different items. I do get where
Yeah,
you're
they
heading.
are, but the reason I ask is it was mentioned
I
3 times
understand.
in the consultation.
Yeah, so that has previously been requested, and I think there's been previous council motions in terms of crossings there. I think even recently there was something. Yeah, I'll get some comments from Mr. Quirk here. Oh, sorry, Mr. Murphy.
Yeah, Mr. Quirky. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I think the simple answer is, as part of this consultation, a footbridge wasn't discussed. It wasn't part, to answer Councillor Lagan's question. I think the bit we would add is that we're also looking at other things in this suburb, including more work on Inglewood, the leisure centre in Inglewood, and a footbridge is part of that discussion and that work that we're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there no one opposed to this? I will put this one to the vote. Thanks, councillors. That's unanimous. We'll go to 12.1 F1, the schedule of accounts. There was an alt rec as per the memo from Ms Hawkins, just with a slight adjustment on some printing. Chair of the committee.
Mayor Irwin, I'd like to move the committee recommendation on page 53, noting the officer alt-rec with a change to some numbers and figures that I need to be read out, or just
No, I think-
councillors all got them?
I think it's just that you move the alt-rec, so it's more about changing that figure.
That is it. That'll be the figure in red there, I believe. So, okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Is there a
you.
seconder for that? Councillor Kristovich. Is there anyone opposed? If not, I'll put that one to the vote. Thanks, councillors. Let's go to 12.1 F4, the Doubleview, Scarborough and Allu targeted underground power. Councillor Perkov.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 12.1 F4 on page 77. I'd like to move that committee recommendation, noting that there is a alt-rec in our notes.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the committee recommendation? Councillor Hatton. And is there anyone opposed? Councillor Kristovich. Councillor Perkov.
I have nothing to add at this time.
Thank you. Councillor Hatton.
Nothing to add.
All right. Councillor Kristovich.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Look, this item was obviously debated quite extensively at Council, and I think we all know the merits of underground power, both in terms of reliability with the system, increasing values of properties, but also allowing our tree canopy to grow. So I think it's very important to try and support this program going forward as much as we can. We know that costs are always going up. We know things are tough at the moment, but there's a lot of benefits to come out of this process. And one of the things that I've noticed historically is that when we go out for consultation and we make these decisions on this 50% plus one opposed, very few people actually make comments back. So most people actually don't bother getting back to us. We tell them, this is what we're doing, this is how much it's costing, and probably 90% of people don't get back to us and 10% do. And if 51% of that 10% say no, everybody misses out. And I don't think that's necessarily a fair process or system. I think in terms of this motion about going out, consulting, telling people what we're proposing to do, it still gives them the opportunity to comment, and we're able to make decisions based on what sort of comments and the number of comments we get back. I think it's a much fairer and a much more transparent process, and I think we can then balance all of the things out. So that's why I'd be requesting for people to support the alt-rec. I think it's similar, but it's better than the actual original motion.
Thank you for that. So is there anyone else who wishes to debate that or any questions regarding what it is? So effectively what's the committee recommendation is that we approve a consultation process where we ask the community if they want underground power. We will put that to the vote. You can choose to do that or not do that. If it's lost, Councillor Kristovich has foreshadowed a motion whereby Council approves a consultation process to go and inform the community that underground power will be going in and how much it will cost. So it's a foreshadowed motion. You'd like to debate, Councillor Giudice? Sure. Yep.
Yeah, it's just a question about, obviously, ultimately, hopefully this gets up in terms of, residents going to get the TUP project. In terms of their payment, could we just have an understanding of the approach we take? They don't have to pay in one payment. Could we just have a little bit of understanding? Because, as we know, it's
Yes.
cost of sort of living crisis, and just trying to understand how someone might be able to manage the payments.
Yeah, Ms Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Giudice. Yes, historically with underground power projects, we've allowed payment over 7 to 10 years, and we would certainly be recommending or putting that in place again for this project.
Question?
Yep.
In regard to that, do we then, I suppose, because that's something that a cost that we're absorbing, does that come out of our reserves, those monies, or is it? And I mean, do we put a cost on that those monies
Ms
being
Hawkins?
set aside for that payment?
Through the Mayor, no, we don't actually have a reserve for that. It would come out of our municipal, and that's a decision of council. So we do tend to pay the project 18 months, across 18 months, and then we'll enable that payment over a number of years, noting that for the seniors pensioners, there's a requirement for the 50% because of the rebates.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got Councillor Migdale.
Thanks, Mayor Irwin. I've just got a question that I don't really understand this. To my understanding, in our ward, when it came to the underground power project, we were not we were not asked, and residents were not asked. Everybody was told this is a state government project. It's not a City of Stirling project. It's a project that the state government is rolling out across areas that they decide are past their use by date and need to be upgraded or what have you. So I don't quite understand the different intents
So
here.
I can
This
hopefully.
is not asking people if they want it.
Yes, it is.
It is.
Yeah.
So
let
we
me
can
let
stop
me
it.
clarify. So back when, if you think to some of those early ones, I remember back yours was around 2015, 16, maybe 17. The menorah,
No,
those areas.
Corbinia was earlier. Menorah was 18.
Yeah. So those ones, that was an old process where you had to, as a council, you had to not only bid for your ward against other wards.
Yes.
As a council, then you had to determine, okay, we want to bid 60% of the cost of our ratepayers will pay 60% of the cost as opposed to 40.
Mr. Mayor.
What's your point of order, councillor?
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Mayor. Just there was a survey that actually went out because I filled it out myself, and then they required a minimum percentage, if I can recall, and then we
I
got
don't see what
stung
your
after
point of
that.
order is, though, councillor. I'm saying that. so
Sorry, I thought you were leading the point that the council made the decision. Yes, they did.
No,
after
so
the
let me.
survey.
I just want to be clear because it's a very confusing process. That was a process where you were not only then bidding. This council was then forced. It was almost said that if you only bid 50% of the cost your ratepayers will pay, then council won't get it. So council had to bid, say, 60% or 70% for their ratepayers as opposed to the utility paying the rest. Then you went out and consulted with your community, or this council did, and said if it's got to be at least 50% of the people want it for it to go ahead. That was how those projects went ahead. Then there was one where they did a targeted one, I think it was in Scarborough fairly recently, where it was a much lower cost because it was needed and they were just effectively told it was going to happen. That what's happening here is because the cost has increased significantly, almost doubled over a period through hold-ups, the officers felt that it was prudent to go back to the community and say, would you like it? What Councillor Kristovich is saying, if we start asking everyone if they want it and we only get a smaller response, then it's easy to sway that result. So he's asking for us to go out and just tell everyone, we as a council want underground power through our suburbs. Have I made it clearer or more confusing?
So is the foreshadowed motion just going straight out and letting everybody know?
Just let them know that underground power is happening.
And the original, the substantive motion,
Is asking if they want it.
and it is within our ability, if they do not want it, to shut it down.
So the background of this, again, is the new program. The state government has said that all houses will have underground power. For the City of Stirling, we would envisage maybe a period of 10, 15, 20 years. There are plenty of councils who, you've just heard, haven't got the ability possibly to fund it through their municipals or may not wish to proceed with their community. So this council does have the ability to even fast track that. The concern, and I can read why Councillor Kristovich has a concern, it came up through committee, is if this council starts prolonging the process, asking areas if they want it, pulls out of some, then potentially we'll lose the ability to move forward in a progressive way on a needs basis throughout a community. The ultimate thing that sits underneath this new process is that it doesn't matter where you live. So in the previous process, it's great if you live in Trigg or Menorah or a suburb that we determine maybe you can afford to do it. But maybe if you live in the lower socioeconomic areas, they're a lot less likely to get underground power. This new program says doesn't matter what your salaries are, what your houses are worth, you will all get underground power because it's needed. Yes, but you'll have to pay for it. But it's always been, and you recall, because you set me up to go and see a minister, Deputy, as a council resolution, where I was told very clearly, the state government sees that a utility like Western, the underground power, the power assets are owned by the community. When you buy out in Greenfield suburbs up north, when you buy your block of land, you are buying the underground power and you are paying for that through your block. So retrofitting these suburbs is very much seen that the homeowner will pay for their underground power to get to their house. Don't send me back there.
To be clear, the city, as per last time, will play the role of debt collector and collect the funds from the resident to pass on to state government or
Exactly.
Western Power.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Ferranti, then I've got Councillor Lagan, then Hatton.
I'd like to retract my question, thank you.
Councillor Lagan, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Can you just explain to me, the wording for the foreshadow, to me, doesn't read any different to 1 and 2.
I think the intent was not to be too leading, but
The intent's not, it's not clear, that's why I'm asking. If we're going to put a foreshadow out that essentially, I'll use a vague
So you'd
term.
like it to say to inform?
Well, we're handballing a cost to ratepayers who need to be known, who need to know that cost. So the cost has jumped from 3,427 to $9,000.
Yes.
So if they go on old figures or they talk about it, then
It's a range.
yeah, I agree, it's better than 11, but it would be double in Mount Louise.
So are you happy, are you requesting that it says the council approves a consultation process to inform property owners of the costs?
Costs, yeah, or indicative costs.
Of the costs and process?
Yep.
Cost range.
Costs and process for, is that?
Thank you. Through
I
the
think
mayor.
that's the intent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and certainly the information that we provided would be about the project, about the costs. It would be clear in terms of the difference between a network and a connection. So it would be very clear to people if they already have a connection, i.e. the Green Dome, they only pay the part of the network cost. So certainly the intent of, if we were to do a consultation process to inform the property owners about the W project, that will include all of that information, Councillor
Yeah,
Ligon.
happy with that. That's fine. My second question is, through you, Mr Mayor, officers, are any of the areas within, are there any areas within the City of Stirling where underground power is provided to ratepayers for free?
No.
Through the mayor, no.
And my last question is...
But again, some were very cheap. There's certainly been disparity in cost.
And my last question is, what would the target timeline be, given the communication from Western Power, for this particular project? We're talking 26, 27, 28, 29, what's the timeline?
25, I believe.
Yes, through the mayor.
Ms.
So
Hawkins?
they were ready to go until we understood the increased costs. So that's why we've brought it back to council. But the contractor is ready, so early 2025.
And just finally through you, Mr Mayor, as we are facilitating the process, when we see a cost increase of 40%, does the city ask for a breakdown of what that increase is, where that 40% has come from, given that it might just be a state government saying we want to raise the price but not giving a reason?
Ms Hawkins?
Yeah, through the mayor. Yes, certainly Councillor Ligon, myself and Mr Murphy and Mr Richards have met with Western Power several times over the past month or so, and we have asked for that detailed breakdown and have been provided that as well, and also the differing numbers from when the original estimates were done. So yes, and we're comfortable with the information we've been provided.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hatton?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I understand the intent of it. We want to get underground power going through our suburbs. The state government wants to get underground power going through our suburbs. We're the facilitator for that through the state government. But my concern with the question...
I do just want to clarify. My understanding, the state government aren't desperate to underground power.
Well, this actually reinforces what I'm about to say.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Yep, that's right.
Are we just becoming the next bureaucratic level of government that imposing this on our ratepayers? They might see that, so I'm going to ask, what disclosures or wordsmithing will there be to the residents in that costing to say that we aren't imposing this and it's imposed by state government?
So the intent is a consultation will certainly, and this area has already been consulted, so they're aware of this. But the intent is the consultation will clearly define how the breakdown is between obviously the utility, the state government and the relationship and what our role is in this. I think it's also important to note this council's seen underground power over the last many, many years in different forms. It's always been something that's been strongly supported. It can be done better. It certainly acknowledged it can be done better. And we'd like to see I think we see the strategic risk for underground power, I know talking at a high level, is that while state government is using local governments to deliver these projects and deliver the consultation, these very costs that Councillor Lagan bring up, a lot of it is for the reason we're sitting here tonight, the process in getting through this, in going backwards and forwards between a third party like a local government. You know, we'd certainly like to see a proactive approach of this council to work with the agencies to start to deliver. I mean, you look at the people delivering these projects, they've got to go between here and over into Armidale and all those sort of things. They potentially, if they knew where the next project was going and were able to roll on, there's significant efficiencies that could be found.
So in follow-up to that, I would hope that we do de-risk our involvement with the right disclosures and wording and putting it a bit back on state government. If I was to support it, then I would want that. Thank you.
Thanks. And that's noted. And yeah, again, I mean, it's not, whilst this is new for this area, rolling out these isn't new for the city, as you know from Councillor Papard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So can I ask that as the consequence of effectively not surveying the community and forcing the program and the costs to the ratepayers is that we, I guess, increase the, you know, may mean we might be spending, I guess, many more years chasing the money, given that it's a much higher cost from the ratepayers. Is that perhaps the consequence without? And I'm just conscious of also it's, you know, there are cost of living issues at this point.
I understand the concern. I've only got to, so my answer will come from my experience in doing other underground powers and seeing how they rolled out. The reality is, as was I think one of the councillors brought up, when we go out to consult on these, we might only get a couple of hundred responses or 50, I think Councillor Kristovich mentioned this. So effectively, by consulting and asking people if we're going to do it, and say you got 51% who said yes out of 150 responses, you've still potentially got the other 2,000 people who live here or however big this area is, who would feel like it's perhaps been forced on them. So I don't know if that's going to resolve that, but it's certainly about communicating. This area has been communicated. There's going to be underground power. There is an expectation by many of our community that's been brought through, which is why previously councillors have bid for underground power, that there is going to be underground power in their suburbs.
Thanks for that, Mr. Mayor. And can I just add, is it a likely consequence that given the blowout of the costs of this program, that it will take many more years for us to get the money back from the ratepayers? Is that a possible consequence?
It's always possible. I would say it's not. This is still a cheaper program than was paid 6 years ago in areas like Manoora or Kulbinia. You know, it's still a significantly cheaper process, and I think the more streamlined it can become, possibly other savings will be found.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, the consultation still, gives people a chance to put their views forward. Councillor Kristovich, would you like to? Oh no, where are we? We're back to Councillor Perkoff to close debate.
Mayor Irwin, I'm happy with the debate as it was, and that's it.
Great. So let's be clear. We're voting on the original motion that we asked people if they want it or not. If that is lost, then we'll go to the motion to inform people. I'll put it to the vote. Okay. I don't know. There always matters. So that original motion is lost. So I will go to the foreshadowed motion from Councillor Kristovich that council approve. It's been seconded by Councillor Proud. I don't think we need to debate that one, so I'll put that one to the vote. Thank you. That motion is carried. So for we have Councillors Crowder, Judici, Kristovich, Olo, Papard, Perkoff, Proud, Thornton and Mayor Irwin. Against Councillors Dudak, Ferrante, Hatton, Lagan and Meekdale. That motion is carried. We will go to item 12.1 TE4. Councillors, this is just being pulled out. Councillor Hatton wishes to leave the chamber. Financial disclosure. Councillor Perkoff, if you'd like to get ready. Councillor Hatton has left the chamber. Councillor Perkoff, your motion.
Thank you, Mayor Irwin. I'd like to move the committee recommendation as written on page 107.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Proud's happy to second. Is there anyone opposed? If not, I'll put that to the vote. And that motion is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We'll get Councillor Hatton back in. Useful till the end, Mr. Blanchard. Thank you. We'll now go to last one to be pulled out, 12.1 GOV1. Councillor Thornton's asked for it to be pulled out. Proposed CAT local law. Councillor Perkoff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 12.1 GOV1. I'd like to move the committee recommendation on page 136, noting that there is an alt rec on the table.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the CAT laws? Thank you, Councillor Kristovich. Is there anyone opposed?
Just like to move a procedural. Is now the time to do it?
No. I think you have to oppose it first, and
I'm happy to oppose it then.
Yep. Thank you. And I'll go to you as a mover. Then we'll come.
Nothing to add at the moment.
Councillor
Mr. Mayor.
Kristovich.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Look, as we've said, this is really just to go out for consultation. So obviously we put a document together which contains all of the latest information from all of the feedback that we've got from the community. The sooner we get the feedback out, the sooner we get comments back in, and then we can make adjustments that we need to. And if there's any councillors or other people that want to make changes, obviously that can happen as part of that process as well. The thing I'm concerned about when you defer these things and leave them, you know, people talked about cat containment, you know, cats killing, you know, lots of fauna out there. Now, this is proposing to add 30 reserves. It's proposing to have a containment area. It's proposing to have cats registered, which is in some respects achieving that sort of cats on properties, trying to keep them out of these areas. So, you know, the more areas where fauna is being killed that we can have on this register, the more exemption areas we can have. I think that's a great idea. I just really think we need to get this out ASAP so that we can feed into the new local law, but also feed into the state government process that's down the track. I don't see any reason, you know, there's been so much consultation up to this point. I don't see any reason in deferring it any further at this point. And I think we should support it. It doesn't mean that this is going to be what ends up being the local law. I mean, there may be changes and improvements. But at the same time, you know, why push it back 3 or 4 months? Why allow another 1,000, 10,000, 5,000, 50,000 birds to get killed? These containment areas being infested with cats when we can deal with them now. I just think we need to take this very seriously based on the representation that was given here this evening and the passion from the community about, you know, protecting our fauna. And I know when I was a kid, you know, you go out in the street, you'd see lots of birds everywhere. There'd be pigeons, there'd be doves, and there was like, you know, goose and ducks, all sorts of things flying around. I remember seeing a big goose flying down Bassendean, and it hit a power line and it fell on the ground. And
I don't know where he's going with this.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. Point of order. This is starting to become a fairy tale.
Yes.
You don't see as many birds.
Councillor's order, come on.
You don't see as many of those birds out there anymore, and that's because obviously, you know, cats have had a big impact on that. So I'm just looking forward to seeing the reason and the rationale why people don't want to go out and ask the community what they think, what their opinion is, and you know, try and get that sooner rather than later, so we can update and improve this legislation and get it happening as quickly as possible.
Thanks, Councillor. That'll probably do. Councillor Dudak, you'd like to?
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Kristovich. Just following on from what I believe councillor's opinion is, I know there are some councillors who believe there should be more reserves added to this, and some councillors that think perhaps too many reserves have been added, and discussion should take place before we go out. If there were to significantly change from the consultation period, we'd then have to go out for another round of consultation with the community several times. I don't think many people want that. I will just note, if we delay this, there's not going to be too much consultation coming through the Christmas period anyway, so I don't think there's too much harm done if we were to defer it. So I'd like to move a procedural motion that we refer this to the Community Resources Committee in March 2025 to allow some further feedback before we put this out for community consultation.
Can I just get a point of clarification?
I'll let you clarify.
A point of clarification. Councillor Dudek indicated that if we got community feedback and we made changes to the law, then we have to go out again and get further feedback. Is that true?
If it was significant changes, you'd normally have to, if you significantly change the local law, if it was changing a reserve I wouldn't imagine you would. Mr. Morby? Yeah, that's correct. I'll get Councillor Thornton, who wants to second the procedural, because I know that you both asked for this prior to the... So this is a procedural. It's up to council if they want to support it. If you want to protect the bin chickens, that Councillor Kristovich, or otherwise, if you... So it's just a procedure. All you're voting on here is to
Chair.
hold this over until early next year.
Point of clarification. To add something on, it could be just an amendment that could be done right now.
No, it's not.
No?
It doesn't matter. Their ship sailed.
It's minor.
It's not minor. There's significant changes that both councillors wanted to make, which is why they brought this up. They're quite happy. They want to test to see if they can get a procedural. Councillors, this is a procedural. Can I put this to the vote? That motion is carried. Voting for a procedural is Criado, Dudek, Ferrante, Giudice, Hatton, Lagan, Migdal, Lolo, Papard, Perkoff, Proud and Thornton, and against Kristovich and myself. Yes.
First it was ours, now it's flying geese.
Councillor Perkoff,
Mr.
would
Mayor,
you like to move the balance of reports?
I'd be more than happy to move the balance of reports of the remaining items.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor has seconded you for the balance of reports. I'll put them to the vote. And that is unanimous too. Thank you, councillors. Members of the gallery and those who are watching us via the live stream, please note that the remainder of those Community and Resource Committee recommendations have been adopted now by exception resolution, which takes us to item 13. We'll go to 13.1, the local law reviews. Results of the public consultation period. An absolute majority is required. Do I have a mover of a motion, councillors? Moved Deputy Mayor Migdal, seconded Councillor Giudice. Is there anyone opposed? If not, I will put those to the vote. That is unanimous. Thanks, councillors. Item 13.2, Berkeley. Is that spelled right?
No, it's not.
Berkeley executive, as the Mr. CEO said, that's why we need to go to learn how to spell. Berkeley Executive Leadership Program attendance on page 231. Do I have a mover of a motion? Councillor Lagan. Thank you. Seconded Councillor Papard. Is there anyone opposed? Thank you. I'll put that to the vote. That is unanimous. Thank you. Item 14.1, proposed notice of motion. Councillor Olo, intersection of Main Street and Cape Street. Your motion, councillor. Page 242. That's right, 242.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That a report presented to the next Community and Resource Committee meeting regarding a review of safety and crash statistics at the intersection of Main Street and Cape Street in Osborne Park. Reason? Complaints have been received from the community regarding the safety at the intersection. I would like to add a bit more to it if I can, please.
You can do whatever you like. It's your motion.
Thank you. Because the residents are requesting right turn arrows on both sides of the road for safety reasons on Cape Street.
Yeah, whilst I don't know if that needs... Oh. Councillor, I think I understand your intent. I would leave that, personally, I would leave that out. It's just that you're asking for a report to come and it's almost predetermining what the report's going to say. I think that could feed into the... So we can add that into your reasons so the officers know what the concerns are and what people want to look at. But I think you want the report to be fairly open, otherwise it sort of leads it. So Councillor Thornton is happy to back you on that as a seconder. Is there anyone opposed to that? I'll put that to the vote. Thanks, councillors. That is unanimous. Item 15, notice of motion for consideration at the next meeting. I believe you have a nom, Councillor Lagan. A nom to read out?
Is it on the board?
No. Can you remember?
Sorry.
You can't remember.
May have. It depends. I thought it was the next.
It doesn't. Yeah, well, I think you were just going to read it out. It won't be on this agenda. It'll go to the next. It's frozen.
Can I come over there and read it quickly?
Here,
Oh,
here.
okay.
Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. I had discussions today with officers about this, and we had not ultimately finalised it. But yeah, the proposed notice of motion that I put forward is that a report be presented to a future council meeting investigating a possible cul-de-sac of 8th Avenue, Inglewood, at Walter Road end of the reserve after the entrance to the reserve parking and club rooms to facilitate to facilitate additional parking, and that community consultation be undertaken before any activity.
Thanks. Okay. I think there was Deputy Mayor said, and then we've got Councillor.
It's going to be on the board, but I will just read it out because I might not be able to
I hope these
see
aren't all
it.
noms. We're scrolling through.
It's confidential too, by the way.
Is it on the board?
I think if we're not sure, have you got it there?
I do. That a report be presented to a council meeting in February 2025 outlining the details of a cultural art exchange program between the City of Stirling and Vasto Community Italy. The reason for the motion: discussions are progressing with the Italian consul to enable an artistic cultural exchange. This would provide the opportunity for an artist from Perth, from Stirling, to paint a mural in Vasto, Italy, and an Italian artist to paint a mural in the City of Stirling.
Thank you. Councillor Thornton.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm putting forward this notice of motion tonight because I've been listening to the community. I've been listening about their frustrations on the lack of the lack of fair and access to appeal rights. So my notice of motion is the introduction of third-party merit appeal rights. I respectfully ask that the City of Stirling supports the introduction of third-party merit appeal rights in Western Australia and in the State Administrative Tribunal against development approvals, the conditions or absence of the conditions of the approval. Secondly, that the City of Stirling administration forwards this resolution and the supporting rationale to the Minister for Planning, and also respectfully ask the Mayor sign also a letter to support this at the next suitable council meeting. Thirdly, that the City of Stirling administration prepare a compliant petition to the WA Legislative Assembly and the Legislative Council supporting the adoption of third-party merit appeal rights to be tabled at the next suitable council meeting. And lastly, that the City of Stirling administration draft a proposal in a new local planning scheme 4 that includes third-party merit appeal rights. The rationale, I'll just read out the points.
That's all right.
from me.
That's all clear.
Thank
so
you.
That will come back in a report. Council has looked at that before, but it was a significant time ago, but there'll be a report come back.
Yep.
Are there any other notice of motions? Any thought bubbles? I love it when I see you scribbling when you put your hand up. That's always good. Thank you, councillors. Item 16, questions by members, of which due notice has been given. There are some from Councillor Elizabeth Ree on the agenda. Item 17, new business of an urgent nature. We do have 17.1, the appointment of alternative member to the 12th of December 2024 Mindarie Regional Council meeting. Councillors, I'm not sure. Can I just have a show of hands who might wish to indicate to be the alternative member?
I might just clarify. I'd like to, as I've just resigned, I'd like to nominate myself for the Thursday, 12th December meeting, but not on the ongoing basis.
So the intent, so this council has, I'll have to get clarification from Mr. Morby on this. I don't know if they can be separated. So once there is an alternative member, that alternative member is the one. And this is an odd one because with Catalina, the alternative member automatically just goes in as a deputy if someone's not there. But this council still has to appoint an alternative member for Mindarie. And then part of the constitution of Mindarie is that each time someone can't attend, this council then has to still appoint that person to sit there. But I don't know if we can do a separate person. But it would.
Just a point.
So I will check if we can, but it would seem that if we've got an alternative member, you've got to be able to then use them. Otherwise, there's no point in us having an alternative member. Mr. Morby. Doesn't mean you can't run for it. I'm just saying it can't be separated.
And thank you through the mayor and through you. You've basically hit it on the head. I don't have much further to add.
Again.
Can I? Can I just
happy to clarify?
Can I just clarify if the motion were to be changed? So, point one was that appointed as the alternate member for Mindarie Regional Council to be held Thursday, 12th December. The second part was council appoints as the ultimate member after the date 13th December going forward.
Look, it's possible. I don't know if it's. I don't know how to.
Can I have a point of clarification?
Yes.
Yeah, so if Councillor Dudek was to nominate as the alternative in point one, I'm assuming that if he didn't attend any meetings after that, considering we have to appoint on every single occasion, he'd just say, I'm not available and someone else could go. Is that how that would work?
No,
so if you nominate for point at number one and number two, it doesn't mean you
I think effectively what we're saying is we would do a one-off, so we just do a point for this, and then next year we would appoint an alternative member.
So just delete one and just put just have two as number one.
But look, councillors, I'm comfortable for it to be an open ballot. I'm not comfortable personally. Do I think it's good governance that we would not just appoint someone to do it? I don't see why we wouldn't just put your hand up. Mindarie is something that we'd expect. Yeah, I'll split. It's for an alternate member. So all I can think of is to make it fair is to test. Does everyone understand what Councillor Dudek is asking?
Yes.
Yes. Can I just ask for it? If you're happy to do it, we'll just ask for a show of hands, or we can ask for.
Can we have comment on it first before?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, with all due respect to Councillor Dudek, I think that for good governance, the MRC, whoever is appointed needs to be at the last meeting of the year. There's very, very important issues coming forth and have been coming forth for a long time. It's important to have the knowledge and understanding, and that last meeting is going to embed that for the beginning of next year. There'll be a lot of thinking time in every individual, in every individual's head, in every member council representative. There's a lot of thinking to do over the Christmas break. This meeting is important to anyone appointed for continuancy and for integrity for the MRC.
So let's treat this. What I'll do is let's just treat this as a debate. This is the last item anyway. Yeah. Councillor Dudek, if you'd like to just move a motion that the two be separated and we just appoint someone solely for this meeting, and then you can, as a mover, I'll get a second. Is there anyone who'd like to second that happening? Let's do it that way.
Yeah, if you'll just allow me, because I think it is important just to respond to Councillor Hatton's points that someone is across the issues that are going to be discussed at this meeting, and I think I am. So that's why I'd like to be here for this one, and then finish up as the ultimate.
Thanks. And I think Councillor Hatton wasn't saying that you didn't know what was happening at this meeting. I think he was saying that he thinks it's imperative that the person going forward understands what's happening.
Certainly there was nothing personal in it, or whatever.
So the motion that we have, I've got a mover that these be separated and we just appoint one councillor to attend this meeting, who still would go to a vote. Councillor Papard, you're happy to second that? Councillor Hatton is opposed. I'm happy not to, unless we need to debate this part, just put that to a vote and then we can get on and decide whether we're going to have one or two. Is everyone clear what we're voting on? Yes.
Point of clarification.
Comment, Mr. Mayor.
Point of clarification, sorry.
Haven't started voting yet. There's no vote up.
Yeah, but the first question I've got, Mr. Mayor, is anybody else interested in attending this meeting on the 12th of December? I mean, we haven't even asked that question.
Yes, but I'm trying to do this so it's fair and it doesn't just.
No, but I mean, there might be someone who's interested in going in that meeting and every other meeting. So we haven't actually.
Yeah, we haven't done that yet. This is just, we're just voting on that. All I've asked is Councillor Dudek has asked for that to happen. We need to separate these out. So this is purely to decide if you just want to have one person go to this and then next year we deal with an appointment. That's all we're doing. Once we've done that, we'll actually work out whether we're just doing one person or we're doing the appointment of the alternate member and so who's going to go to this, and we'll ask for names.
But I'm just confused, sorry, just for the clarification, but there might be someone else who's interested in going
I've
just to one
just said
meeting.
that we will go to that. This isn't saying that Councillor Dudak will be this person.
It's got his name in there.
Sorry, that it shouldn't have his name in there. Sorry, I'm not looking at the screen here.
Oh.
Yep. Yep. So,
And
councillors, let's not have the full debate on this.
I just think it's important to debate this as well, sorry, Mr Mayor, because you know, we know how important MRC is and the issues that are there, and I just think that...
Councillor Christovich, go.
Well, I just wanted to say, look, MRC...
Councillors, can we just listen? This is fairly important.
Look, this council has been discussing issues around MRC. We know about the contaminations. We know about the big problems there. As Chair of Catalina, I'm very familiar with what's going on to a certain degree in MRC, and I just think that as a council, we would want to appoint someone who's going to be there into the future at every meeting consistently and understands what's going on. I mean, I don't think we should be chopping and changing people every single meeting.
Yes.
It's an alternate. It's because someone's going away.
No, it's an alternate. I know it's an alternate, but we may have people that are happy to be a permanent alternate to attend every meeting.
Get rid of the sitting member.
No. We're not getting rid of the sitting member. I'm just saying, you're saying that we'll do one alternate today, we'll do a different alternate the next day, the third alternate will be there. So what people are saying is we have a different alternate each time.
No, councillors, it's an entirely reasonable debate. I can't believe we're laughing about this.
Yeah.
Seriously. This is about consistency and one of our biggest strategic risks for this organisation. Councillor Christovich is entirely debating the item up here. We've had a councillor ask that we just have someone this time, and then further times we have different people, or we appoint someone next year. Councillor Christovich is saying that strategically, he thinks it's vitally important that we have the same person appointed. We understand that it's alternate, but if someone can't attend a meeting out of the 4 attendees, which isn't an uncommon thing, and that's not a criticism, people have other things on, then you don't want to be topping and changing. So I think it's entirely reasonable debate.
Look, and I say this because I don't understand why this is coming up, why you want to do one meeting and not every meeting as an alternative. So
it's come up because the councillor put it forward.
Yeah, I understand that, but I suppose from a good governance perspective, I just think if there are people here who want to attend every meeting as an alternative, and you know, then why would they get automatically cut out just because someone wants to attend one meeting? I just don't understand. To me, that doesn't make sense.
Yep. And that's what you're about to vote on.
So I'm happy to leave it at that. And just,
I'm happy if anyone else wants to debate this.
Yeah. Can I just respond?
Not yet, because it's your motion. Councillor Proud.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. As the MRC chair, I actually know a little bit about MRC.
I'd hope so.
I would have suggested that it only be the second number one, right? Rule out the first one. It should only be one that the council, that we appoint a deputy member to be able to attend a meeting on the 12th of December, the last one Mindari meeting for the year, and continue on as the deputy for the rest of the time. Councillor Thornton has got 2 years' experience with Mindari and put forward good debate and arguments. She's certainly either as qualified as Councillor Dudak, nothing against Councillor Dudak, she's actually got 2 years on him. And I think Councillor Dudak's had 2 meetings. So for continuity, for governance especially, let's not look messy, let's just do one deputy member right now. We don't need to do 2.
And if I might, I'm happy to support Councillor Thornton because I don't want to be accused of bad governance and supporting that, which is what's happened. My thoughts were only that I am across the issues of MRC. There's one final meeting. It's going to be an important one where they could be deciding on things to do with Stirling and our future direction. And I thought I'd be competent to handle those. But I also agree with you that Councillor Thornton is very capable to handle those issues as well. So I'm happy to support her
December
there.
meeting won't be critical.
Okay, so do you withdraw separating them now?
Yes.
Okay. So is it? Yeah, so they're probably upside down now. Right. Right. 1, 2.
Mr Mayor, can I just nominate somebody?
No, that's the right way round. Yeah. Councillor, is there anyone else who'd like to nominate though? No, your name's already been put there. You just got nominated by Councillor Dudek. I know it's confusing because there's two motions, but there is a process. That's right. So there's no one opposed to that one then. So we've withdrawn the other motion to separate. So we've got appoints Councillor Thornton as the alternate member. Then we're actually appointing her to be able to attend the 12th of December as per the Mindari Constitution. I'll put that. Yep, Councillor, and I think Councillor Proud happy to second. I'll put that to vote. Thank you. That is unanimous. Thanks, councillors. I probably made it harder than that needed to be. 18 matters behind closed doors. I don't believe I have any. That brings us to item 19, which is closure of the meeting. I declare the council meeting closed at 8:39 p.m. I bid good night to the viewers at home. Wish you a Merry Christmas and thank you for staying with us tonight and throughout the year. We'll see you early next year.